We shall now start with the MCQs on body fluids and circulation. First question. The most abundant and least abundant cells of the blood are option A, WBCs and RBCs respectively. Option B, RBCs and WBCs respectively. Option C, platelets and RBCs respectively. And option 4, RBCs and platelets respectively. So when we look at the abundancy or the volume of cells in the blood, RBCs, they constitute about 5 millions to 5.5 millions per cubic millimeters of blood. So that much amount of RBC cells will be there in cubic millimeters of blood. Whereas WBCs, the volume, the number of WBCs, so when we look at the number of WBCs in blood, it is about 6,000 to 8,000 WBC cells are present per cubic millimeters of blood. Whereas the platelets, they are in somewhere between the RBCs as well as the WBCs. That is approximately about 1 lakh to 3 lakhs per cubic millimeters of blood. So which is the most abundant cells in the blood? It is RBCs, and the least it is WBCs. So which is the right option? Option 2, that is RBCs and WBCs respectively. Next question. A reduction in the number of platelets can lead to option 1 or option A, clotting disorders, B, blood coagulation inside blood vessels, C, excessive loss of blood from the body, D, both B and C. So what happens when the number of platelets are reduced? So here what happens when the number of platelets reduced? It results in the excessive loss of blood from the body. Why it does so? Why it happens so? Because platelets, they are required for the blood coagulation, and also you people know the process. So which is the right option here? That is C, excessive loss of blood from the body. Okay, next. Allergic responses are regulated by option A, neutrophils, B, eosinophils, C, monocytes, D, basophils. So allergic responses are regulated by what kind of WBCs? Basically it is eosinophils. Option B. Next question. RH negative person donates blood to RH positive person for second time. Then option A, RH positive person will die. B, RH negative blood starts reacting to RH positive person for second time. Then C, nothing happens to RH positive person. D, RH negative person will die. So what happens if RH negative person donates blood to RH positive person? Nothing will happen because there are no antigens present. So there are no RH antigens present in RH negative blood, and thus when such kind of blood is injected to the RH positive person, no changes will occur. But when an RH positive blood is injected or when it is given to the RH negative people, so their antibodies against RH factors will be produced in the body of RH negative people. So what will happen here? Nothing will happen. So option C. A person with blood group A requires blood. The blood group which can be given is option A, A and AB, B, A and B, C, A and O, D, A, B, AB and O. So if a person, the patient if he is from A group, so if he is having A blood group, so he can receive the blood either from the same group, matching group like A, or from the compatible group. So which is the compatible blood group for A? It is O. Option C. So he can receive blood from A and O. Next question. The disease erythroblastosis fetalis of human baby is due to option A, incompatibility of blood groups of embryo and mother. B, incompatibility of blood groups of the couple. C, maladjustment of RH factor. D, all of the above. So here, which is the right option? So here, what is the right option? It is the incompatibility of blood groups between the fetus as well as its mother. Option A. A dark reddish brown scum found at the site of cut or an injury over a period of time which is called. So that is called as option A scar, B clot, C coagulum, D both 2 and 3. That means both B and C. So what do we call for that brown colored scum which is formed at the site of cut or injury? So after a few days that will be formed. So that is called as a clot and coagulum. So option D. Important function of lymph is option A, transport carbon dioxide to lungs, B, transport oxygen to brain, C, return interstitial fluid to blood, and D, return RBCs to lymph nodes. So what is the important function of lymph? It is to transport carbon dioxide to lungs, they has given, but mainly this function is carried by the veins, systematic veins, and thus it is not an appropriate option, an appropriate answer. And transport oxygen to brain, so that function is done by oxygenated blood. And C, return interstitial fluid to blood. What do you mean by interstitial fluid? It is the fluid which is present in between the cells. So lymph, what it does, it returns the interstitial fluid to the blood, because this blood it has formed here. See, these are the capillaries. You people know that these are the capillaries. So here what happens, these capillaries, they will be having small openings, holes will be present, and thus when oxygenated blood is under high pressure and when it rushes into the capillaries, so here what happens, some liquid which is present in the blood, it escapes from these holes of the capillaries, and this fluid or liquid, this will accumulate in between the cells and it will be colorless. RBCs are not coming outside, it is not oozing outside, only colorless liquid like plasma will be oozing out from the holes of capillaries, and that colorless fluid is called as lymph. What is that fluid called as? It is called as lymph. And this lymph, what it does, this lymph, it will be returning to the systematic veins to restore the fluid inside the blood. So what is the main function of lymph? It is to return interstitial fluid to blood. So actually that is the function of lymph vessels. It is the function of lymph vessels. So lymph will be replaced inside the blood through the lymph vessels. So which is the right option here? Option C. Next question, middleman of the body is option A plasma, B WBC, C lymph, and D RBC. So which is the middleman here? See, RBCs, they are involved in the carrying of carbon dioxide as well as oxygen. So RBCs, they will carry oxygen and nourishment as well as certain essential elements to the body cells. And at the cells, carbon dioxide which is released here, it is again carried by the RBCs to the heart for pumping. So like this RBC will be working. Whereas WBCs, they are actually the warriors. They are warriors of the body. They are involved in giving protection to us against the invading pathogens. See here, lymph. Plasma, you people know that. So plasma, it is the fluid part of the blood. And lymph, it also carries oxygen. It is also involved in the carrying of oxygen to the body cells. And in addition to that, it is also involved in the carrying of carbon dioxide which is produced at a tissue site. So it is doing both the functions like RBCs are doing, which is involved in the carrying of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So this lymph, it is called as the middleman of the body. Option C. Next question, open vascular system is found in option A earthworm, B fish, C man, D prawn. So in which of these organisms open type of circulation is seen? Usually it is seen in lower organisms like arthropods. So which is the organism that belongs to arthropod? It is prawn. Option 4. Next, advantages of closed circulatory system over open circulatory system includes which of the following? Option A, closed system can direct blood to specific tissues. B, exchange occurs more rapidly. C. Closed circulatory system can support higher levels of metabolic activity. D. All. So what are the advantages? It is all of the above. Option D. Incomplete double circulation is found in which of the following animals? Option A. Amphibians and reptiles. B. Mammals. C. Birds and mammals. D. Birds. So in which of these we can find the incomplete double circulation? What do you mean by incomplete double circulation? In these organisms, here we can find the presence of three-chambered heart. That is, two auricles and one common ventricle. So here we can come across the two auricles and one common ventricles. See, on this side, that is left auricle, it receives oxygenated blood and right auricle receives deoxygenated blood. Even though oxygenated and deoxygenated blood are received separately by two different auricles, these both blood they gets mixed up in the common ventricle, and thus such a kind of heart it pumps the mixed blood, and thus it is called as incomplete double circulation. And this kind of circulation can be found in so option A, amphibians and reptiles. B, mammals. C, birds and mammals. D, birds. So it can be seen in case of amphibians and reptiles except crocodile. Option A. Next, megakaryocytes produce. Option A, leukocytes. B, lymphocytes. C, bone cells. D, blood platelets or thrombocytes. So megakaryocytes, they produce what? They undergo fragmentation to form the thrombocytes. Otherwise, it is also called as the platelets. Option D. Next, 1 millimeter cube blood has how many blood platelets? So it has how many blood platelets? Option A, 1.5 to 3.5 million. Second option, 1,50,000 to 3,50,000. C, 1,500 to 3,000. D, 10 to 15 lakhs. So 1 cubic millimeter of blood, it will be having 1.5 lakhs to 3.5 lakhs of platelets. So that means, which is the right option? It is option B, 1,50,000 to 3,50,000. A doctor suggested to a couple not to have more than one child because of option A, Rh negative male and Rh positive female. B, Rh male and Rh negative female. C, Rh negative male and Rh negative female. D, Rh positive male and Rh positive female. So here, which is the right option? Option B, Rh positive male and Rh negative female. Why? Because first pregnancy, there will be no problem arising, because very limited amount of antibodies will be produced inside the Rh negative mother, in the blood of Rh negative mother. Whereas in the during next pregnancy, what happens? Already antibodies are present in the bloodstream of that Rh negative mother during her labor of first pregnancy. But during second pregnancy, what happens? The fetus will be attacked by those antibodies which are already secreted in the Rh positive woman. So it results in the clumping of blood inside the fetus. That condition is called as erythroblastosis fetalis. And thus one should be very careful while the marrying occurs in between the Rh positive male with that of the Rh negative female. So option B. Which of the following is cell fragments? Option A, leukocytes. B, RBCs. C, blood platelets. D, none. So which is the right option? It is C, blood platelets. Rh factor is concerned with blood grouping. It derives its name from option A, man. B, chimpanzee. C, rat. D, monkey. So which is that to which animal it belongs to? It belongs to the macaque rhesus or rhesus monkey. So it belongs to option 4, monkey. The heart is covered by option A, peritoneum. B, pericardium. C, pleural membrane. D, visceral membrane. So what do you mean by peritoneum? This lines the abdomen. Pericardium, it lines the heart. And then pleural membrane, it actually lines the lungs, and visceral membrane, it forms the inner layer of lungs or heart also. Okay, so which is the right option here? That is option B, pericardium. Pericardium. Next question, the bulk of heart wall is option A, epicardium, B, endocardium, C, myocardium, D, pericardium. So bulk of heart wall is nothing but the myocardium, option C. So it is the middle layer of, it is the middle wall of heart. Okay, so you people know that heart, it is made up of three walls. That is, outer one is called as epicardium, middle one is called as myocardium, and the inner one is called as endocardium. Okay, so the bulk of heart wall, it is nothing but the myocardium, option C. Next question, ventricles are related to option A, heart only, B, brain only, C, both 1 and 2, D, none of this. See, ventricles, they are present in heart as well as the brain. So they are even present in the brain, because they will be having ventricles in brain. They are nothing but the communication network of cavities which are filled with the CSF, that means cerebrospinal fluid. So ventricles not only present in heart, they are also present in the brain. Okay. So options, heart only, B, brain only, C, both 1 and 2, and D, none of this. So which is the right option? It is both 1 and 2, option C. Next question, the impulse of heartbeat originates from A, option A, cardiac nerve, B, vagus nerve, C, SA node, that means sinoatrial node, and AV node, atrioventricular node. So heartbeat impulse, it originates from where? ACA node, that is the sinoatrial node. So it acts as a natural pacemaker, which on depolarization, it lets off a negative charge, and thus it initiates the heartbeat. So option C. The opening of the right and left ventricles into the pulmonary artery and the aorta respectively are provided with the tricuspid valves, that is option A, B, bicuspid valves, C, semilunar valves, D, both 1 and 2. So the opening of the right and left ventricles into the pulmonary artery and aorta. So here is the pulmonary artery, and here arises the aorta. So these openings, they are guarded by what kind of valves? Here we come across the 3 semilunar valves. So which is the right option? Option C. Right and left bundles give rise to a minute fibers throughout the ventricular musculature of the respective sides, and is called option A, Purkinje fibers, B, bundle fibers, C, bundle of hairs, D, both A and B. So it is nothing but the Purkinje fibers, option A. Next question, on the top of interventricular septum, AV bundle immediately divides and forms option A, Purkinje fibers, B, right and left bundle, C, bundle of hairs, D, both 1 and 2. So here which is the right option? It is right and left bundle, option B. Next question, the normal rate, heart rate 72 beats per minute is maintained by option A, SCA node, B, AV node, C, ventricles, D, Purkinje fibers. So the constant heart rate, it is maintained by, so it is sinoatrial node, because it is a pacemaker which maintains the pace of contraction. Contraction is called by a term called as systole. So it maintains the rhythm of the systole. Okay, so option A. Next question, during diastole in the sense relaxing of the chambers. Relaxing of the chambers is called as diastole, and contraction of the chambers is called as systole generally. Option A, enters during diastole of blood. Option A, enters the heart, B, leaves the heart, C, enters the lung, D, leaves the ventricle. So during diastole, blood what happens? It enters. So why blood enters into the heart? See, none of the chambers are under contraction and thus they will be under the relaxed condition. Diastole in the sense chambers will be relaxed. So when they are relaxed, blood easily enters into the heart. So which is the right option? Option A. Regulation of heartbeat in human mammals is due to the option A, presence of excess oxygen in blood, B, presence of pacemaker in the heart, C, presence of thyroxine in blood, D, volume of blood in the system. So regulation of heartbeat in mammals is due to what? It is due to the presence of SA node. SA node is called as the pacemaker in the heart. So option B. So it is due to the presence of pacemaker in the heart. Option B. Next question. P wave of ECG indicates. The P wave of ECG. See ECG. When we look at the diagram of ECG, it shows P, Q, R and this is P wave, this is QRS complex and this is the P wave. Okay. The second, so here the recording ECG of the heart activity is taken by the machine. Option A, electrocardiograph. No, sorry. So 28th question, it is P wave of ECG indicates A, depolarization of atrial muscles, B, activation of SA node, C, spread of excitation from SA node to AV node, D, repolarization of atria and depolarization of ventricles. So what does this P wave indicates? It indicates the activation of SA node. So in these auricles, so what happens? They undergo depolarization. What do you mean by depolarization? Leaving off a negative charge. So when depolarization occurs, what happens? SA node, it gets activated and thus it starts the contraction and this heartbeat is initiated. Whereas QRS complex, what is this QRS complex? What is the function of this QRS complex? So this indicates the ventricular contraction. QRS complex, see at Q, ventricular contraction, it starts. So this QRS complex totally it will be denoting, it will be actually representing the ventricular systole. And T here, at T what happens? The ventricles undergoes relaxation. It undergoes relaxation. So here what is the right option? So here it indicates P wave, it indicates both depolarization of atrial muscles and activation of SA node. Option 1. So option A, they has given 1 and both A and B are correct. B and D are correct. C, both A and C are correct. D, A, B and C are correct. So option A. Next question, the recording, that is ECG of the heart activity is taken by a machine. Option A, electrocardiograph, B, electrocardiogram, C, electroencephalogram, D, both A and B. So which is the machine used here? That is option A, electrocardiograph. Cardiac output is determined by option A, heart rate, B, blood flow, C, stroke volume and D, both A and B. So cardiac output, it is determined by the multiplication of number of heartbeats and stroke volume and thus which is the right option? It is both A and C because A is heart rate and C is stroke volume. So option D. Next question. The second heart sound immediately follows the occurrence of option A, QRS wave, B, P wave, C, T wave, D, none of the above. So option C, that is T wave. Lump sound produced during heartbeat is caused by option A, ventricular diastole, B, atrial diastole, C, ventricular systole, D, atrial systole. Which is the right option? It is option C, ventricular systole. That means ventricular systole in the sense the contraction of ventricles. When the ventricles undergoes contraction, semilunar valves opens, whereas bicuspid valve and tricuspid valves they suddenly closes, making the sound lump. Okay, so option C. Sphygmomanometer is an instrument used to record option A systolic pressure, B diastolic pressure, C cardiac output, D 1 and 2, that is A and B. So it is used to record systolic pressure as well as diastolic pressure, and hence option D, both A and B. When a person engages in strenuous exercise, strenuous in the sense extensive exercise, option A, blood flow to brain is reduced, B, total peripheral resistance increases, C, blood flow to the kidneys is reduced, D, cardiac output is reduced. So see here, in case of option D, cardiac output is reduced, they has given, but you should make it as cardiac output is increased. So which is the right option? It is option D, cardiac output is increased. Why? Because when during exercise, what happens? During exercise, the cardiac output it increases because the heartbeat also increases as well as the stroke volume also increases. What do you mean by stroke volume? It is the volume of blood pumped by, it is the volume of oxygenated blood pumped by the left ventricle. It is pumped by the left ventricle, so that is called as the stroke volume. So when number of heartbeats and stroke volume increases, automatically the cardiac output also increases. So which is the right option here? D, option D, cardiac output is increased. Next, the pulse pressure is a measure of the option A, number of heartbeats per minute, B, sum of the diastolic and systolic pressure, C, the difference between the arterial and venous pressure, D, difference between the systolic and diastolic pressure. So what do you mean by pulse pressure? It is nothing but the systolic pressure minus diastolic pressure. What is the normal BP? That is blood pressure. So it is 120 by 80 mmHg. Whereas in high BP it will be around 140 by 90 mmHg. Okay, so the difference between this 120 and 80 is 40. So which is the, what is the value of pulse pressure? It is usually 40 mmHg. Okay, let it be. So which is the right option here? Option D, that is difference between the systolic and diastolic pressure. Next question, during joint diastole, option A, both atria relax but ventricles contract, B, both ventricles relax but atria contract, C, tricuspid and bicuspid valves are open, D, both semilunar valves are open. So during joint diastole in the sense relaxation. So what happens during the relaxation of chambers? Both the semilunar valves are open because there is no pressure there, and hence these semilunar valves they will get open. Option D. Next question, pulmonary veins carry option A, pure blood from heart to lungs, B, pure blood from lungs to heart, C, impure blood from lungs to heart, D, impure blood from heart to lungs. So what is the function of pulmonary veins? They carry the pure blood from lungs to the heart. So they carries the pure blood So here what happens? Here there is two pairs of pulmonary veins which carries the oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. So option B. Next question, arteries are option A, thick walled and blood flows under diminished pressure, B, thin walled and blood flows under diminished pressure, thick walled and blood flows under high pressure, and D, thin walled and blood flows under high pressure. See, arteries they usually carries oxygenated blood from the heart to the body tissues. So as a result, when the ventricles undergoes contraction, powerful contraction, blood it rushes into the aorta, and from there it enters through the arteries, arterioles and capillaries. At the capillaries, this blood get exchanged. That means oxygen, gaseous exchange occurs. So as the blood inside the arteries are under higher pressure, these arteries are made up of thick walled. They are made up of thick walled. and blood will be under the higher pressure too. Why? Because ventricles undergoes powerful contraction and thus blood will be exerting certain pressure onto the arteries. Whereas inside the veins, you people know that all veins they carry deoxygenated blood from the tissues to the heart, and from there it goes further to the lungs for purification. As here inside the veins, it has the blood is not under pressure. So inside the veins, so blood is not under the pressure. As a result, blood will not exert pressure onto the wall of veins, and thus the walls of these veins, they are thin walled. So which is the right option? Option C. Thick walled and blood flows under high pressure. Next question. The blood circulation which starts and ends into capillaries is A. Portal circulation, B. Renal circulation, C. Hepatic circulation, D. Lymphatic circulation. So the blood circulation which starts from the capillaries and ends into the capillaries is called as portal circulation. That means we have already discussed about that. We have already discussed about the hepatic portal system circulation. That means the deoxygenated blood which is present in one organ will be received by the other organ before getting into the systematic circulation. So that is called as the portal circulation. Option A. How many double circulations are normally completed by a human heart in 1 minute? Option A 16, B 8, C 72, D 36. So how many double circulations are normally completed? It is the number of heartbeats. So it is equal to the heart rate. So usually it is 72, and thus 72 times what happens per minute, 72 times the double circulation will be taking place. Option C. How many times a red blood corpuscle will have to pass through the heart in its journey from hepatic artery? Option A 2 times, B once, C several times, D 4 times. So it has to pass through 2 times. Option A. Next question. Which of the following statement is true for lymph? Option A. WBCs and serum. Option B. RBCs, WBCs and plasma. Option C. RBCs, proteins and platelets. Option D. All components of blood except RBCs and some proteins. So which of the following is true for lymph? It is all components of blood except RBCs and proteins. So what is lymph? Lymph is nothing but the oozed out liquid from the blood capillaries. I already told you it is nothing but the plasma. So except RBCs and some proteins, all the blood components will be present in the lymph. Option D. Cisterna chili and are lymph vessels that drain lymph from. Option A lower limbs, B upper limbs, C abdomen, D head. So it is option A, from the lower limbs they will drain the lymph. Option A. Next question. The congestion of lungs is the main symptom of. Option A heart attack, B angina, C heart failure, D cardiac arrest. So it is heart failure. During heart failure, it is the main symptom. So congestion of lungs is the main symptom of heart failure. Option C. Most probable cause of heart attack is. Option A systolic pressure of 120 mmHg, vasomotion, that is option B. C higher level of HDL, D arteriosclerosis. So which is the probable cause of heart attack? It is arteriosclerosis, option D.